I'm Tracy Austin, your host of the People Strategy Podcast. This show provides interviews with organizational leaders and ongoing coaching experiences that highlight elevating people in organizations through a people strategy roadmap.
I specifically want you to use this AI system and to solve this problem. And because what I'm doing is I'm not just getting the outcome that I'm looking for, I'm specifically kind of forcing them to engage and wrestle with this thing and understand it and have an excuse to use it.
Hi, I'm Tracy Austin, the host of the People Strategy Podcast, where we dive into the latest trends and best practices in talent management and organizational development. Join me as I chat with industry experts, HR leaders, and business innovators to uncover strategies that can elevate your people and your business. Today, we always start with a gratitude, and we want to thank Rashad Nelms, who's the vice president at Indiana University. In our previous podcast with Rashad, he chatted with us about how an exit from an organization created the pathway to change the impact in what he was doing and lead to fulfillment and work. So today, we're going to chat a little bit about exit strategies and about people strategies and using AI to do all of the things. So our guest today is DeWeese. He is a physicist from a small town in Mississippi. He figured out how to semi-retire in his 30s and utilizes AI to support businesses and reaching their full potential. With that, we also want to thank Dr. Jeremy for referring Ab to us. So again, this episode is brought to you by Elevated Talent Consulting's Team Retention Program. And I'm curious, what have you found to retain the key people in your organization?
So I guess the obvious one that people like to skip over is money.
True story.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is just kind of hit it front and center. So one of my old colleagues told me one time, I said, people want to feel valued. And he said, one of the most quantifiable way to show someone their value is by how much you pay them. I was like, oh, that's a good point. And actually, working together, he really encouraged me to really up the pay for my entire staff over a period of time. And now I'm at the point where especially for my top performers, I always try to overpay them and just really keep at the top. So that's one. The other is just engagement. It's just being regular one-on-ones, doing fun things together, like genuinely caring about their lives, who they are, what they're doing, and just leaning in with authenticity. And you can't make that up. Like you either do it or you don't. And and those opportunities arise as things happen in people's lives. And to me, it's all about like how you show up for that person when they're in need. And if you do that consistently, they just begin to trust you that you actually really do and genuinely care about them as a person. And so those are the answers, I guess, that I have.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So I have two questions I always ask at the end. I'm going to ask them at the beginning today, and then we'll get into the real fun. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because this has everything to do with, team retention. So what is one bucket list item that's on your list, a personal bucket list?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I wasn't ready for that at all.
I
know. Bucket list item for me is I would love to backpack around mainland China.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So now, what's one work bucket list item?
Oh, that's easy. I'd retire again.
Okay. Yeah. So so the key here is how do you tie the work bucket list with the personal bucket list together? So how are you going to retire again to go,
it's like
around mainland China?
Step one, steal socks. Step two, question mark, right? Like, step one, retire again. And that makes the second bucket list item a lot more achievable and doable.
Yeah.
So for me, a backpack trip in mainland China would definitely need to happen kind of later in life, maybe 50s or 60s. My wife works in the defense industry, and so those two things don't really mix very well.
No, not right now.
Yeah, but if at one day she'll leave the workforce, and when she does, that's years from now, right? But when she does, maybe that's in the cards. And then I guess as far as my retirement, I don't know if you guys said retire again. So at 37 years old, I retired from my company. In 2017, at 37 years old, I retired from my company. And I ran it for an hour a week for 5 years. And then I came off the bench in 22 to make some changes and migrate it from a services business to a B2B SaaS business. And got really excited about AI and all the possibilities around that. So I'm kind of back in the game now, but am diligently working myself out of a job and plan to be, retired again in 12 to 18 months.
Amazing. Amazing. So let's talk about this job that you've decided to step back into, and that company is Good Automation. So what drove you to start Good Automation?
Yeah, I wanted to start a business. I wanted financial freedom. I wanted to get my time back. It was my third try. I started a company and then woke up and realized I didn't have any revenue. And then I realized, well, that's not a company, it's a hobby. I started another one. And then it was a repeat. And I did all this software product development for like a year and a half, like grinding. Finally, like, okay, it's ready. But we didn't think to tell anybody about the product. And so when it was ready, like there was no one there to buy it or use it. And it was a really tough lesson in, putting the engineering cart in front of the marketing horse. Right. Mm-hmm. So then my third time through, I thought, maybe I should just do this the old fashioned way. I should just start a services business in a market that I understand, in an industry that I know, where I've got a strong personal brand and I know that I can do it. And there's not a big, there's not some massive exit at the other side of this thing, but it's something that I know I can control. I know I can execute well, and I know I can be successful at. So I set a 5-year goal for myself. This is 2013. I set a 5-year goal for myself to replace my engineering salary within 5 years and be able to get all my time back so that I could spend my time and effort, swinging for the fences and execute, going for a big win, starting a big company that is scalable, that, has a potential large exit. And I was able to pull it off at year 4 and walk away from Good Automation.
Amazing. So I'm curious. Now, you didn't necessarily have an exit plan, but you had a retirement plan, right? So with that being said, how did that plan impact your people strategy and how you really built your company around the people that would be running it?
Oh, thank you for the question. Yeah. I just depended heavily on people. Like, this is the life, especially in a services. Especially in a services business, it's literally the people. You take the people away, there's no business. But it's true in any business, right? Even in our as we're in our current form, we're kind of schizophrenic. Like, we're like, half of us are services, but then we wake up the next day and we're SaaS. And even then, as we make this transition, it's still very people dependent. But as far as with Good Automation and executing through my plan to leave, I guess it was more of a goal than a plan, kind of backed into it. People were absolutely critical. So I had a good friend and leader that I admired. I asked him to come in and run the engineering team, and then quickly promoted him up to interim CEO and then CEO. I had hired around the same time a salesperson who, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what's your goal? He's like, I want to be a sales leader. I was like, awesome. Like, come in and sell for me and do a good job, and I will make you a sales leader. Right. So my promise to him, like, I wanted to know, and do this with everybody, I want to know what someone wants, and I want to give it to them. And if I can really understand what they want and I can give it to them, they're going to be grateful. They're going to work hard. Everybody's going to win. What they do is going to be easy for them because they're driving towards something that they want. So for my sales leader, it's like, what do you want to be? It's like, I want to be a sales leader. Awesome. Come in and be a salesperson. And if you do a good job, I will hire someone under you so that you can cut your teeth as a sales leader. And then we'll make this agreement, or I'll just let you know that if you're unsuccessful at that, like, that's okay. But I'm going to give you the shot. I'm going to give you the at bat. And the guy ended up being super loyal, great employee for several years. And the two of them ran this company. And because they executed their roles well, I was able to fall back into the background further and further and further. The other thing that I really enjoy doing is delegating to the point of abdication and giving people power and responsibility and decision-making authority. And I'm very, very big on, I want you to make decisions, and I'm never going to second guess your decision. there might be some decisions where we'll have a conversation about it and say, the next time you encounter a decision like this, I want you to consider these other things. I'm never going to second guess your decision, because the minute I second guess your decisions, if I second guess 1 out of 10 decisions, now I'm second guessing every decision that you make. And you don't have the power to decide and execute. And I need you to be able to make, to call shots. And sometimes you'll make them wrong, and that's okay. And that allows me to back way off and really empower people to lead, execute, and make decisions. And they make mistakes along the way, but that's okay. Like, people make mistakes, and a lot of business people understand the kind of the truism that the worst decision is no decision. And so by empowering people to make decisions quickly, as opposed to waiting on me, things happen a lot faster. And so anyway, those are kind of 2 styles that I really embrace, which is delegation, almost to the point of abdication, and then like really caring about what someone else wants, striving to give that to them, and they're just going to naturally want to work harder and be more engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got trust and your own version of what's the work bucket list, and we're going to be able to hit it. Let's get down and do it. Absolutely. Yeah. So you're very much focused on AI at this point in time. And I know you work with a lot of organizations on how to hire an AI team, but I'm curious, how did you hire your team? How did AI come into that? What does that look like?
Oh, that's a great question. So, man, there's so many answers.
Well, let's start here. Let me ask this question. So many of the human resource leaders that I work with are scared to death of AI. And I'm like, this is not something to be afraid of, right? So why don't we start there? Like, why should we not be afraid of AI, or why should we be?
Man, I really appreciate that question. I am on a mission to tell the world not to be afraid of AI. And I so passionately believe that. So let me just start by answering that question.
Sure, absolutely.
The 2 primary fears that people have are AI is going to take over and kill us all, like the Terminator, or AI is going to take our jobs, right? Like the Luddites of old, right? Like that are afraid that technology is going to take their jobs. At every
Hold on. Can we just say there's certain jobs we want AI to take? Like, I don't want to do benefits and comp. Like, let's just let AI do some of that while we're making decisions.
I guess respectfully, I would state that in a slightly different way.
Sure.
You still need a person at the helm in charge of benefit. You still need a person at the helm doing all these things, but they now have tools that make them so much more efficient and can do the grunt work.
Yes,
but
100%.
AI without a human to oversee it is like mind-blowingly incapable and makes a lot of errors. You have to have a human in the loop. You have to have a skilled person driving these things and overseeing the output on a somewhat regular basis. Otherwise, you're prone to a lot of failure modes. But the 2 fundamental fears that people have are AI is going to take my job, and then there's like this deeper, more primal fear that we don't understand this technology. Maybe it takes over the world and kills us all. So I just want to hit both of those head on. We're centuries away from any kind of like AI singularity, because the more you understand how these things work and the deeper you understand the mathematics and what goes on behind them, the more you begin to appreciate that they in no way resemble human thought. My mind, which is hosted in my brain, is a product of my prefrontal cortex, the middle regions and the deeper like lizard regions, but also my mind is a product of all the neural connections and synapses I have throughout my whole body. Like, my mind, the way that I think, is affected by how I eat, by how I slept, there's this massive gradient of things that affect my thinking. An AI system doesn't have anything like that. It's literally a prediction algorithm that's going to infer the most likely result based on the things that it's seen. And so it doesn't have this kind of drive that humans have. And like, lacking that and other things, we're so far away from any kind of AI takeover. It's just not even worth worrying about or spending cycles thinking about it. So the other one is, there are a lot of people that are worried like AI is going to take my job, and I love to talk to those people because it's not. Now, someone with AI will absolutely take your job, but AI is not going to. And this is imagine imagine two financial analysts. One of them uses Microsoft Excel and the other one uses a stone and tablet, right? Which one's more efficient? Which one are you going to hire? Which one's going to excel? Which one's going to make? That's a double. Yeah. Which
the one with Excel, right?
Which one's going to excel in the organization? Which one's going to make more money for the organization?
Right.
Take home more money as a paycheck. The answer is obvious. So to embrace this stuff and really lean into it, you get this massive advantage as a knowledge worker in the modern economy. So AI is not going to take your job. It is going to empower you to become so much more effective. And the beautiful thing is, this applies to companies and it applies to people. If you're an early adopter and you lean in really, really early, you're going to get so far ahead of the pack in terms of your value that you command, either as a company, an organization, or just as an individual contributor on a salary. That I can't urge your listeners enough to go learn this stuff and get very, very good at it. It's just going to set you apart. And the more you learn about it, the more you realize and you become in tune with the way that these things fail. And they fail in really unexpected and subtle ways. And they fail in ways that people don't necessarily appreciate that they're failing. So they fail in like these hidden ways. So a classic example is something called a hallucination, which is when a large language model, which is just a next word predictor, happens to spit out a bunch of words that sound realistic, but are actually false. They're inaccurate. And you need an expert human overseeing these things to be able to spot those things that are wrong and know that they need to be looking for the things that are wrong. Because if not, it'll fail in a way that you think that it's not failing and you're trusting it. And that's like a recipe for disaster. So the people that embrace this new technology revolution are going to be at such a major advantage for themselves and for their employers. And anyway, in terms of like, should we be afraid of this thing? Absolutely not. We should run and give it a big old hug and learn to use it and put it to work.
Right. So in other words, doing the back end of the benefits stuff that is the detail orientation piece that's pulling all the data together so that we can still make really good decisions on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great summary.
So just going back to that example, because that's a great one. And so, I know you're doing a lot of work on, hey, how to implement AI in organizations, what that specifically looks like. So when we talk about people strategies and, really utilizing AI within the development of our people, within our people being really productive, those types of things, how do you go about doing that?
I guess there's two ways, right? There's no substitute for good old fashioned on the job training, right?
Right.
Give them the tools and tell them to use them. Give them the tools and empower them to use them. But that probably needs to be supplemented with some formal training, right? Or maybe some research and some reading. And it's a little self-serving of me to say that. I've got a course called 31 Days to Master AI and a book by the same name. And so
it's like the hint, hint, nudge, nudge, like here's your easy button.
Anybody's welcome to put their people through that course. And it's effectively like the equivalent of a university course packed into 31 days. And just packed it with value and knowledge and learning. But that aside, the way that I've been bringing my people up to speed on this is very simple. I'll give them tasks and I'll instruct them. I don't like to give people very prescriptive direction most of the time, but some of the time I'll give them very prescriptive direction. I'll say, hey, can you do this? But when you go to solve this task, I specifically want you to use this AI system and to solve this problem. And because what I'm doing is I'm not just getting the outcome that I'm looking for, I'm specifically kind of forcing them to engage and wrestle with this thing and understand it and have an excuse to use it. So one of the things I'm looking for as a leader is to find opportunities where I know that these tools will help them. And I know that I can take this task or this little small project as an excuse to sort of force them to use the tool, and they interact with it and they ramp up on it, and then they start gravitating to it naturally to use it themselves. So one great example is with language models. So a large language model is it's a type of AI system that generates text, just generates text, and you can have little conversations with it and brainstorm things. They actually are shockingly technical. You can ask these things questions about debugging, complex Linux system configurations, or helping you write software source code, or thinking through physics and electrical engineering problems. And you can also use them to write marketing copy, and write blogs and generate content. But I think the most important, simplest way anyone listening can get their people ramped up on it is to encourage people to use language models on a daily basis, 5 minutes a day. Because what happens is, as you talk to these things, you slowly at first it feels like magic, but then you slowly begin to gain a sense of how they're not human and how they miss things, or there's a certain pattern in the way that they respond, and there's something kind of detectable or discernible in the content that they generate, and that only happens with time and with conversing with these things. So
let me ask you a question. What's an example of a language model? Is that like a Chat GPT, or is that what are some examples that you're currently using?
Yeah, Chat GPT is a large language model. Gemini is a large language model. These are models from OpenAI and Google, respectively. I think Elon's got one. I think it's called Grok. There's one called Llama, which was made by Facebook and then ultimately open source. So there's a number of these things out in the wild, and then sitting in front of them are kind of client-side applications or different user interfaces. Like ChatGPT has its own interface. But other companies might have like an interface in front of somebody else's large language model. But that's an example. ChatGPT is the kind of the Kleenex or Coca-Cola. They're the brand that is synonymous with the category.
Right. And then you've got things like Microsoft Copilot within your own data versus externally, correct?
You do, and many people don't know this, but Microsoft made a huge investment in OpenAI, and the Microsoft Copilot AI systems are driven by OpenAI models behind the scenes. So it's ChatGPT under the hood.
Amazing. And so when teams are utilizing this, what isn't it, I do have my HR hat on, right? So it's like, all right, what's shared with the general world? What don't we want to be shared? How do we protect our own data and that proprietary information when we're using AI?
That's a really good question. There's a lot of people that have this concern. So I'm glad you asked. There's a complex and multi-part answer, but at the end, it's a really simple answer.
And it's all in your 31-day course, right?
No. Actually, this isn't. No, none of. So I don't think it. Maybe I should add something to it. From a data privacy standpoint, it goes like this. One, read the terms of service. Right. OpenAI has its terms of service. Google, Microsoft, they all have terms of service. But who else has terms of service? Dropbox has terms of service, right? I'm going to give my data to OpenAI. I'm going to put my data in Dropbox, right? I want to think about those entities in the same way. Is what they're telling me that they're going to do in terms of their terms of service and privacy policies? Do I like what they're telling me that they're going to do? Do I like the way that they tell me they're going to use their data? And then do I believe that they have the maturity to execute on the things they're telling me that they're going to do? So there's sort of two different things in sharing my data with these guys. If you look at ChatGPT, for example, the terms of service for ChatGPT says, they have the freedom to train their models on your data unless you opt out. And so you just go into the settings and you opt out. If you call into the ChatGPT application programming interfaces or APIs, like if you write software using their models on the back end, then their terms of service state that they do not use your data. And so if I'm building a software application using a language model for a large corporate client, I get this question a lot, but the answer is it's not. The terms of service are very, very clear. Like they don't own the data. The corporate customers own the data. But let's say we're working for the U.S. military or in the defense industry, and we're worried about certain sensitive data getting sort of outside the walls. Well, Microsoft Azure has a secret level, has a government cloud that is very, very secure. And Microsoft has all the OpenAI models that run in their Azure cloud workloads. So you can actually construct these systems calling into OpenAI models hosted inside of Microsoft in the secure clouds and fully realize these systems in a way that protects your data and gives you the data sovereignty. So it really depends on the use case, and it's an answer. It's a question with a simple answer, but it kind of varies, depends on who's asking and in what way they're asking. But your question is more on the HR side, which is kind of a tougher question, which is how do you set up policy across the entire organization to make sure that people don't accidentally go and disclose things or share things that they shouldn't. But then I would say, how is this any different than having policies about what kind of information you can and can't upload on third-party services like Dropbox, et cetera? About having policies about using internal systems versus external systems. You say, oh, so we need an internal language model. Yeah, you might, and those are actually pretty easy to put together.
Amazing. Yeah. So, we do HR masterminds quite frequently. And one of the questions that came up was like, so if I want to ask and say, hey, tell me all the dirt on AB, what would that tell me? Right. I'm like, well, that needs to be a very different server than your regular intranet, right? We don't want everyone knowing that information. But I think that there's some really cool things that this can do to save a ton of time in the research and the pulling the documentation, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So anything else that you want to share with our audience before we kind of land this plane here on AI, how to use it, how to get the most out of it, all the things?
Yeah, real quick. I'll give a quick plug for me, but I'd like to spend the rest of the time talking about something I think is super valuable for the audience. So if you want to learn more about me, you can go to DeWeese.com. That's ABDEWEESE. Or you can go to abhq.com and it'll redirect. And my book, my course, my companies, et cetera, that's all on there.
And it'll all be in the show notes.
Yeah, shameless plug. But what I think is to get your HR listeners and your business leaders excited, the easiest way to bring AI into your organization is so simple, so simple. It goes like this. You have natural attrition. Most companies have kind of regular attrition, year to year. And you're going to be hiring. If you're growing, you're hiring, or if you're just backfilling attrition, you're hiring. Okay. And you know how to hire Mary the marketer. You know how to hire Paul the process guy. You know how to hire Stan the software engineer. You may not know how to hire Alex the AI guy, but that's okay, right? You know how to hire these standard roles. You know where to find these people. You know how to vet them. You know how to interview them. You already know how to hire all the functions inside your company. You guys all know how to do that. You only need to add one little tiny change to your hiring process. And it goes like this. There's a question at the bottom of the interview, the interview questionnaire that says, will this person not shut up about AI? And if you're hiring for all the things that you already know that you need to hire for, and you just get the people that are naturally drawn to this stuff, those people will bring this stuff into your organization. They will be the champions. They will be the advocates. They'll sort of like infect all the others and they'll bring it in. And so the only tiny change you need to make is just to additionally screen for, are these people excited about AI? Will they not shut up about it? And it's a simple change, and it will have a magnificent impact on your whole organization.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, all of your information will be in the show notes. So for our listeners, can't wait to join you again next week. Have a great week.
Thank you so much for listening today. I'd love to connect with you. If you'd like to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn at Tracy, TRACI Austin, and at our website at elevatedtalentconsulting.com. If you'd love to learn more about our process, please reach out to us. And again, thank you so much for listening and sharing your feedback with us through a review. Have a fantastic day.